Alright, welcome to my very first reaction video. We're not going with anything funny, we're going right for the throat. Welcome to the broke YouTuber reactions. It's my TV, cell phone. It's what you get. This young lady here is a mother and lost a few children to fentanyl poisoning. And she has quite a few points. She was brought as a witness to the House Homeland Security Committee to talk about different things that are going wrong with our border and the fact that we have a crisis. Well over 4 million since 2020, and that's documented. That's what we know of. So, you know, that's an entire state of people. I mean, that's more than Oklahoma. That's more people than an entire state of Oklahoma. So it's pretty bad for such a short period of time. It's the highest ever recorded, and Democrats want to play it off as it's just another surge, right? It's just another surge. You know, we've seen surges all the time. Well, this is way more than a surge. They know it, but so anyways. Let's listen to what this young lady has to tell us today.
Pardon me? Chairman Green, Ranking Member Thompson, and distinguished members of the committee. I'm Rebecca Kiesling. I'm a mother. I'm the mother to Caleb and Kyler, as well as 3 teenage daughters. Our family's been through a lot. I lost my 2 sons. Caleb was age 20 and Kyler was age 18 on July 29th of 2020. It was absolutely a perfect storm. There was also a 17-year-old girl, Sophia Harris, who died along with them. And the drug dealer, Lorenzo Bravo, was spared by Narcan. And he ended up getting...
Her said one of them was spared by Narcan. Not her 2 sons or their friend, but the person that sold it to them. Narcan used for people going through overdoses to help bring them back. It's a very temporary thing. You need to be taken in and continue treatment, but it does save many, many lives. I suggest that people get this. It's free over the counter. You can go to certain clinics and get it for free. Your health departments and whatnot, but it's a good thing to have around, even if it's for a complete stranger. Usually you say, oh, they're doing drugs, so who cares, they took the risk. Well, I understand that to a certain degree, but in this instance, when it comes to fentanyl, people believe they're taking something else. Like her children believe they had Percocet, if I'm not mistaken, that she's going to say. And but to find out there was 0 oxycodone or Percocet in that pill. It was all trash and an overdose amount of fentanyl. So these kids thought they were just taking a few pain pills, and it didn't work out well. So
8 to 15 years for killing 3 people. Because to the law enforcement, this was a breakthrough case. My former law partner, her husband is a sheriff deputy, he's a detective in the next town over. He tells me he's got a stack. Every day there's a stack of dead people. And there's no leads. But in our case, there was a lead. The drug dealer was there, and he was another addict. And so because he survived, they had leads to who he got it from, and they actually could try to start tracing it back. And the law enforcement made it clear to me that this fentanyl came from Mexico. It came from our southern border. I didn't know what fentanyl was. I didn't know what Narcan was. I had heard of the opioid epidemic.
I bet you're wondering, you know, well, how did they know it came through Mexico? There's many different ways that they figured that out. One, by when they test it, they can see, well, this type of fentanyl or this type of pill, this setup has been mainly coming through this area. And then also dwelling down by the pill itself, by the imprint that's put on it, or the packaging that it's put in. So they're not going to pinpoint it down to, you know, what square foot of border it came across, but they can generalize it, especially to a specific border.
Thought, you know, people are getting prescription drugs and getting addicted and then getting it on the streets, and that it affects their ability to work. I didn't know that people were dying. I didn't know that my boys were taking anything that could kill them. They didn't think that they were either. They thought that they were safe with pills, and I'm going to read some statements from my sons that they wrote shortly before their deaths, and you'll see that that's exactly the case. But the government knew. The government's known for years and years. The year my son Caleb was born, 2020, there were roughly 20,000 drug-related deaths in the United States. The year they died, I'm sorry, it was 2000, it was the year he was born. And the year that they died, 2020, there were over 100,000. For 2021, almost 110,000. The CDC I saw yesterday says that fentanyl deaths rose 22% from 2020 to 2021. I mean, it's unbelievable. You would think that one death from fentanyl coming across our southern border would be enough to sound the alarm. And my kid's story was high profile because 3 young people died. There was another child from our hometown who died the same day. It wasn't.
And the only alarm that was sounded was the alarm bell in all the coyote and cartel members and drug dealers. Their alarm bells went off. Ding, ding. All these deaths are happening, and they're still not beefing up the border. More and more drugs coming in, more and more deaths. 120,000 at the very least that we know of, at the very least. And this is, you know, this is how it's going to be. So that's the only alarm that was sounded. They knew, well, since that's going to happen, not only are we not going to stop, we're going to increase it. And due to that increase, it went up 22% in just 1 year. They want us, the Democrats say they've seized more and more each year coming through the border, but they're seizing them at ports of entry. There's video of people walking through with backpacks, you know, 12 people walking through with backpacks full of fentanyl on a farmland. That's not a port of entry. And if you can just imagine how many pills and how many hits of fentanyl can fit into a large backpack, and you've got dozens of them walking to different farmlands coming through, you know, each person carrying, you know, 50, 75 pounds if they can, you know, fit all that much in there, but that's how much they can physically carry. And, you know, each backpack could kill 50, 100 people, but we're getting more at the checkpoints and the ports of entry, so that's what matters. Don't worry about the rest of the areas that don't have the wall up yet. The wall that all the materials are still sitting out there, all of them. You go through, fly over the border, you'll just see stacks and stacks and stacks of metal and bars and concrete, all that stuff ready to build the border. That was being built. It was being built during Obama. Trump continued it and put more money into it, $15 billion, and before the first 30 days were up, Biden said it. Not one more foot. It didn't mean not one more foot into our country. That meant not one more foot of the border being built. So what was allocated, the $15 billion and all the stuff that's sitting out there, they not only stopped to continue the border, they stopped what was already allocated and already there to be installed.
In the news, you don't hear about it because it was just one death. So it wasn't like extraordinary. I found out from the funeral home that they have tons of these cases regularly. I'm from Rochester Hills, Michigan. We were, in Money Magazine, ranked in top 10 cities live in America a few years ago. Our school is top 5 in Michigan. But this all started at the schools. And the law enforcement are doing all they can, but they usually don't have leads. You have to stop it from its source. Now, if we had Chinese troops lining up along our
southern border. Now I know you're going to say, well, this is a little bit of a reach, isn't it? This is a bit of a reach. I mean, we don't have soldiers on our border, do we? I mean, this is a bit of a reach, isn't it? Well, yes, a little bit, and no, a lot, because how many deaths occurred over the last few entire wars that we've been in, over a decade in the Middle East, and a couple 10,000. I mean, a lot. No matter how you look at it, a lot of soldiers died. But compared to 120,000 in 1 year alone, so get exact numbers, obviously not, but we know it's over 120,000 in 1 year. When's the last conflict that we've had where 120,000 people died? As United States citizens or soldiers. And those are soldiers. Those are people that went out there to do the job, and they knew the dangers that came with it, people that volunteered. These are citizens, just plain everyday citizens dying, non-combatants. So even though this isn't a war of guns being pointed at each other as soldiers, it's still a war because there is a deadly weapon and there is 120,000 deaths in a year, and 100,000 the year before that, and the year after that, obviously there's more. So I don't know the number for this for 23 or 22, but we have the numbers for 20 and 21. So let's continue to hear her explanation about the Chinese troops, because 120,000 civilians is quite a lot of people.
Their border with weapons aimed at our people, with weapons of mass destruction aimed at our cities. You damn well know you would do something about it. We had a weather balloon from China going across our country. Nobody died, and everybody's freaking out about it. But 100,000 die every year, and nothing's being done. Not enough is being done. Numbers are going up, not down. And you talk about children being taken away from their parents.
Yeah, children taken away from their parents. The Democrats are constantly talking about children being taken away from their parents to the Republicans. But the children, if the parents came through legally, the children wouldn't be separated. But just like our own people, the American citizens, if you get in trouble, you do something illegal, and you get put in jail, the kid doesn't come with you, okay? So you're separating parents from their children. Now, when you come across the border illegally, which means you're breaking the law, you should be detained. And since the child is a minor and is coming with you, they aren't being charged with that issue. So they're being removed, because what else are they going to do? Are they going to put you in jail with the parents? They say, well, these aren't illegal aliens, they're asylum seekers. Well, yes, that's fine. You seek asylum. Please seek asylum. Come for a better life. But again, you have to do these things legally. You have to do them legally. And to think over 4 million people are illegally residing in the United States, which is more than the population of just the state of Oklahoma, the entire state, is quite concerning, especially when that's the ones we know about. 1.4 million gotaways, which means they have no information on them whatsoever. None. And then how many more on that do you think that they didn't report as gotaways? And how many more that they know nothing about? So it amazes me that they want to pander it. They want to keep accusing. Republicans are only doing this. We've got the government shutdown. Why are we worried about this? This is part of why the government is shutting down, because you guys will not agree that there is a crisis. You want to say it's a humanitarian crisis. Yes, it is, on both sides. But that doesn't mean you can just walk in the door. Have a nice day. And you wonder why we're busing them to different states. Well, what are we supposed to just keep them all? You're supposed to just keep them in the bottom few border states? Is that where you're supposed to keep them? That was my biggest misunderstanding about that. It was like, well, it's just a political thing. Yes, they were used politically, but even if it weren't used politically, it still should have happened. They were going to call themselves a sanctuary state. We need to bus these people to there so they can get the sanctuary that these cities promise, because we're in the border states. I know Florida is considered a border state, and then Texas and Arizona and New Mexico, and but it's like, oh no, please come seek asylum, but stay down here, stay down there. You got to stay down there. Don't dare come up here. If you come up here, oh no, now we have an issue. You need to stay down there. So how is that working out? How's that working out for us? Is it working out well for y'all out there? Does anybody think America's better? I mean, if we had people coming in legally and we didn't have to worry about this, and the crime didn't shoot up and all these extra drugs didn't shoot up, then yes, we would be happy. But no, we have all these people coming in that we don't know anything about.
My children were taken away from me. 100,000 Americans every year are having their children, 200,000 because it's both parents, right? Are having their children taken away from them. This should not be politicized. It's not about race. Fentanyl doesn't care about race. You talk about welcoming those crossing our border and seeking protection. You're welcoming drug dealers across our border. You're giving them protection. You're not
getting any information from them. You're just letting them in.
I'm in support groups on Facebook where there's thousands of parents who have lost their children. Every day, faces are added. It's dehumanizing. It's demoralizing. There's parents who are, they paint the chairs purple and they kind of make shrines for their children. And I see those purple chairs because purple is the, color for a drug death. And I don't use the term drug overdose because this was not an overdose. This was murder. My children got fake Percocets.
Oh, right there, fake. She wants to pinpoint the fact that it was murder. Overdose happens when you go buy a drug, you take that drug, and you take too much of that drug. But you knew it. You knew you were taking too much, but you continued to go because you didn't care. That's an overdose. When you go and take 2 or 3 Percocet 10s, but they have the strength of nothing but fentanyl and trash, having no oxycodone in the medication, it's just fentanyl and garbage, aspirin and whatever, that's no longer the drug you were taking. So you take these 3 pills thinking I am taking 30 milligrams of this medication, when in fact, in comparison, that tiny bit of fentanyl turns into, well, actually, you're taking the equivalent of 300, 400, 500 milligrams. Have a nice day. Without your knowledge, that's murder. Simple as that.
That were fentanyl. There was no Percocet in it at all.
None.
And it's a homicide, not overdose. But they have these purple chairs. And I saw that and I thought, I don't ever want to have purple chairs. I don't need a reminder. I don't want to remember my sons for how they died. I want to remember them for how they lived. But I'm here testifying today because there are other people who need to remember. I don't need a purple chair in my house. Congress needs a purple chair. The White House needs a purple chair to never forget about all those who are being slaughtered. This is a war. Act like it. Do something. My son.
Put a purple chair at the top of each post that's driven into the ground for the wall. Every support column that goes down for the wall should have a huge purple chair on top. What do you think? What does everybody think?
Kyler, shortly before he died, this is what he wrote. And I want to share the writing so they can have a chance to testify. He wrote his goals. Number 1, stay away from drugs and alcohol. It's not worth it. 2, surround myself with good influence people. 3, stay away from nicotine. 4, treat people with more respect. Don't burn bridges. 5, find another method to cope that works for me. 6, get closer with Jaden. 7, start doing something physical to get in shape. 8, start working a lot to stay focused. 9, finish school. And he did. The day before he died, he graduated. 10, have a better relationship.
See, the day before he died, he graduated, which means he was most likely clean, completely clean, this entire time, which means his tolerance went way down because he was no longer using. Which means he was probably, I don't know if he drank or anything, but he was no longer using drugs, which means your tolerance drops. Apparently he did it for quite some time because he was able to go and finish school and rebuild some bridges and get close to Jaden, a family member, and get things straight in his life. And I guarantee what happened is either he thought of it or his peer pressure or just something happened. And after he graduated, they went out and had a good time to celebrate. And he's like, you know what? I've done this forever. This is great. And, let's have an extra great night. And made the mistake of choosing to go ahead and go buy a couple Percocets. Have a really great night. Maybe that was his choice besides other things like drinking. So instead of going out and drinking, he went and got a few Percocets. Been clean for so long, tolerance so low. So I guarantee he didn't buy that many if he knew his tolerance is low. So a couple pills. And if there's no Percocet, nothing but fentanyl and aspirin, those couple pills are the equivalent to a couple dozen.
With my parents. 11, do anything and everything to better myself and my health. 12, listen when told to do something. 13, don't F up Probo or I'll have a felony on my record. 14, report to any and every drug test. 15, don't follow my birth mom's steps. 16, be there for my brother, my only blood brother. 17, I can do anything that I put my mind and effort to. I'd like to have the photos of my sons shown. I have just a few photos that had to put a face to this issue.
I'm going to pause it real quick so you can get a good look. We are trading these 2 young men, okay, American citizens, young boys who made mistakes, but were pretty well on their way to making up for that. They just made one last mistake that was their last mistake. But I want you guys to realize these 2 young men right here, that's who we're trading for our border protection. This is the Democrats' border wall. Because the only wall they've built is a wall of dead young people.
This is not just a concept.
Or mutilated.
We also found Caleb's testimony he wrote out weeks earlier because he wanted to start speaking in schools and to tell other kids why not to do drugs, why not to ever try it. He said, "My name is Caleb Kiesling. I'm 20 years old."
2 parents lost their 2 sons, and this entire family lost 2 members.
I have dabbled in drugs. I've never touched crack, meth, or heroin, as I have grown up watching my birth mother ruin her life and watch all her friends pass away from heroin overdoses. And I've also growing up hearing how destructive those 3 substances are, so I've stayed away from them and do not see myself ever trying them. Again, he thought he was safe. He didn't want to die.
Well, just know you're never safe. Especially
He says,
now.
I was an athlete. I played soccer from a young age all the way up until my junior year. I got A's in school, was student council president, and ended up graduating early. And I've held a full-time job since I was 16 years old. I'm extremely intelligent. I have my parents to thank for that, as they stressed I keep my nose in a book, teaching me that knowledge is true power and is the only thing nobody can ever take from you. Before I
Sounds
got
like good
caught, I had
parents.
already realized that my life needed to change. I'd been in the process of signing up.
And parents, mother and father.
With the Navy, I scored in the 90th percentile on the PCAT test. I have too many routes available to me not to succeed. So even if the military is in my path, I'm gonna have a good future. I can feel that in my bones. I'm built to succeed, and my issues have only made me stronger. My shortcomings don't even begin to define who I am, and don't even begin to speak to what I've been through and overcame. I can only claim just a little credit for it because it's by the Lord's grace and protection that I'm alive and here to tell my story. He has watched over my whole life, even when I refused to accept his presence and existence.
Rebecca, we're gonna need to move to our next witness. Okay, I know you're.
They've
Can't
given her a
imagine.
lot
None of us
more
here
than her
can
allotted 5
I'm
minutes.
so sorry, but there will be questions, and you'll get to share more in them.
So basically, that's her opening statement. Obviously, there's a lot more. So I suggest you go to Forbes Breaking News. I'll try to put the link in the description if I can figure out how to do that. I just started, like I said. You know, I'm literally doing this on an iPhone 11 and my TV. So, welcome to my site. Name change coming when anybody gives me a decent idea. 'Cause I'm no good at that. So, but yeah. So that's the state of our border. The Democrats want to say it's not a crisis. It's not a crisis at all. Nope. There aren't wasn't it the Democrats, if I'm not mistaken? Oh my goodness, I can't believe I just messed it up. But yeah, I mean it was, you know, Reagan, and then follow up Nixon. It was the big war on drugs, and Nancy with her Just Say No. You know, I grew up with the Just Say No, and then the DARE program was really big. We had the Power Team used to come, big, huge muscle dudes used to do, you know, rip phone books and break handcuffs and snap baseball bats and talk about, you know, how drugs were bad and stuff like that in schools. Well, it was just, you know, just say no. That was it. And it sure as hell was a war on drugs. They went to war with the drugs too. They did use those drugs in their own way as well. You know, it's not. I don't think it's as big as what a lot of people think, but I do believe there was a lot of drugs used by the higher government agencies and somehow injected into lower income areas. And I'm not going to say only in the black areas. It was all low income areas, but unfortunately, it was done predominantly in those neighborhoods, in the black neighborhoods. So Crack, cocaine was all funneled in there for quite a bit of time during the drug war. And then, and like now, they don't talk about that stuff anymore. They don't talk about the drug war. They don't talk about gang violence or anything like that, because that doesn't matter. The gang violence and all those deaths, they don't seem to matter, and no one cares about them apparently. But I bet the mothers and fathers of those kids that die in gang violence, they probably care. This is where we're at right now. So thanks for checking out my very first reaction video. I hope you enjoyed it. This video is from February 28th. It's Forbes breaking news. House Homeland Security Committee holds a hearing. And I hope you come away from this with a little bit more open eyes on how our border is not even a border. Every other country has a border. Why can't we? Thanks for coming by.